Hey, it's Tawana with Destiny Education, and welcome back to our fear series. So, today we're going to talk about how to overcome fear and its destruction so that you can know how to recognize it. Understanding where fear lives is where we're going to begin because it's one of the things that surprises most people. Fear lives in lies, deceptions, and secrets. The more you hide from your stuff, the things that you need to deal with that you're avoiding, the greater fear's impact on your life. We are not supposed to live bound up, but oftentimes we bind ourselves up because we make decisions that put us in harm's way. So, for example, we go out and we have dinner with an old boyfriend or an old girlfriend. There was nothing there. Nothing. But instead of coming home and saying, hey, I met up with so and so and we went out to dinner, we don't want to deal with the playback, the blowback from that. And so we lie. Well, here's the problem. When that lie comes to the surface, now you're screwed because you lied about it. So what are you going to say? Well, no, there was nothing there. I didn't think it was a big deal. Well, the problem is that if it wasn't a big deal, then there was no reason for you to not tell the individual, especially your spouse, what was going on. I find it really odd when people make big deals out of nothing. I went to dinner with an ex. It wasn't a big thing. Like, I spend my life with you. I spend every day with you. And there are some people who are not, they're not stable enough to be able to handle that. Well, now we got a whole nother level of issue, but we're not going to deal with that because it's not relevant to fear. So what we are going to deal with is this. Keeping it a secret only makes their fear more valid. It empowers it. It fuels it. It fires it, and it sends it off to the next level. You see, secrets are not usually a problem if they are disclosed immediately. It's when the other people find out by someone other than you or by some other means that they are outside of themselves irate. Because now they have to deal with whatever the secret/lie was, however it was presented, because God forbid they ever come out in calm and peaceful ways. They always come out, I swear to you, in some type of a public setting, and they just lay you bare. And so now the recipient has to take what happened in what was a perfect example of that? Tyrese Gibson. I love Tyrese. He's awesome. And he's so funny in the Fast and Furious series. He was doing an Instagram live. He was with his girlfriend. And his girlfriend says, I was more attracted to Paul than I was him. What? Why would you let that come out to him on Instagram Live? The man has like 1 million followers and you let that go there? Like, you couldn't have, I don't know, restructured, reframed that whatever. Oh, I just have a headache every time I think about it. Here's the deal. That's what I'm talking about. That came out publicly. And if you look at the look on Tyrese's face, he looks like, what did she just say? Wow. Caught him by surprise. Now, he may have known that in that situation. I don't know. I don't know. But we're going to assume that he didn't. This is what I'm talking about. When secrets come out, it's always in a way that's public. And so now the recipient has to deal with what they look like in public, how they're being affected, what the public persona is. Now, how they handle it is going to impact how the public sees them, and it's going to divide the group. So 50% of them are going to say she didn't handle it right, and 50% of them are going to say it was dynamic, and you've added this extra layer of pressure that didn't need to be there. Versus if the person already knew, the conversation changes. Oh yeah, he told me about when you guys went out to dinner. How was that? It was perfect. He came at the time. He da 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 da. And so if the person who's bringing that out in public is trying to do harm, you've disarmed them. Now they don't have the power to do the harm that they were seeking to do. Now they've been cut off at the legs. And you just move on, and no one is the wiser. You already knew. It showed you as the person who did it, as someone who was honorable and straightforward and went to the spouse. The reason with secrets that it often will do so much damage is because it's usually revealed by an enemy. Like, it's never revealed by a friend. It is always revealed publicly by an enemy. Every single time. It's so frustrating. And so now they're dealing with this enemy. There's so many layers to what happens when that comes to the surface. And so it gives fear this nice, plush, warm environment to just ooze its nasty, disgusting fungus all over every situation. And it just crushes people. And depending on the type of secret, sometimes it crushes them beyond what they are able to overcome. You with me? Learning how to see the truth is one of the hardest things to do. Because let me share something with you. If this is not the book that you use as your foundation, then you don't have anything to stand solidly on. Looking at yourself and saying, this is my truth, there is no such thing as his truth, her truth, their truth. There is only the truth. And the truth is not shifting. It doesn't move. It doesn't alter. It doesn't change. When people have their own truth, it changes with the wind. They're double-minded and they're unstable in all their ways. And the reason for that is that it's going to shift based on what they get out of it. So what the Bible does is it creates a platform for us to stand on. And so we have to shift in regards to what the Bible lays out. Now, I want to correct something here, because let me tell you another place that the spirit of fear and the demon live. It's in the pulpit. You have to be very, very careful who you are listening to from that pulpit, because they have the ability to add extra layers of fear to a situation. Their manipulation and misunderstanding of the word often can create fear inside of people. I want you to remember something. It was during the days of slavery when from the pulpit they said, slavery is a good thing. Look, the Bible even talks about slavery. Well, let's think. The Hebrews, the Israelites, were in slavery for 400 years, and God rescued them out of slavery. I'm thinking that is not an indication that slavery is a good thing. And then they would go crazy and they would do their thing and they would end up back in slavery. And so the Bible often says that God put them back in slavery, and I wish that I could do something about that dialogue, but you have to understand that when it says that God put somebody in something, it's because he didn't step in to interfere. He didn't step in to stop it. He let you live with the consequences of your choices. If this is your choice, then you get to live with that. Here you go. And now they're back in slavery again. And then he would go and he would rescue them out of slavery. So the sheer fact that he kept rescuing people out of slavery is an indication that slavery is not a good thing. Slavery is a thing, but it is not a good thing. And I'm watching currently in the United States, is down in Florida, They're attacking Black history, and they've come up with this psychotic narrative that slavery taught the slaves job skills. The level of headache that gives me is beyond understanding. So let me make sure you understand something, because as we sit here and start learning how to see the truth, there are some truths I want you to see while you're looking at that. So this is what they say, okay? And let's look at it logically and realistically. There's no need to have emotion in this. I know there are a lot of people out there who want to struggle with emotion, but let's just remove all emotion from this. Just look at it logically. So if slavery taught the enslaved job skills, then when slavery ended, why were they not hired by multiple people? I mean, they clearly had the skills necessary to be blacksmiths. That's what Florida said. And they had the skills necessary to be whatever they wanted to be. So why weren't they hired? Why were they struggling to find jobs? So when people come and they say, well, they were lazy. So let me make sure I understand this. The people who were forced to work 16 to 18 hours a day, sleep on the floor in all sorts of inclement weather and harsh conditions, finally got their freedom and decided to sleep all day? Does that make sense? Where's the logic in that? So what happened? Did they spend their days on the field daydreaming about sleeping all day? Here's the next thing that this begs the question of. Well, if it built job skills, then how come they weren't paid to do the job of a slave? I mean, if they had been paid, they could have saved up their money and gone on and bought new things. They could have bought places of their own. They would have had the freedom to come and go as they wanted to. And if there were benefits to slavery, then here's the next question. Why were their families torn apart? What made it acceptable in a situation that was all about education for their kids to be taken? I mean, why would we don't go through schools today and snatch up people's children? What made it okay back then? And see, when you start combating these types of conversations with some level of truth, you don't have to agree with the questions. You can find your own questions, but it still doesn't change the fact that they're not really answerable. What made it okay to separate the families? And see, one of the problems that we're having today is because the fear is starting to metamorphose, and we're going to go into that here pretty soon. The ability to think through things is lessening. And so as you listen to this, the one thing I want you to challenge yourself to do is to step back from emotion, because emotion is a fear-based response. You don't need to pull emotion into everything. Be able to have a conversation with people you disagree with and not have to end up in a place where you are angry. They may get angry, but you don't have to be in that position where you get angry, because logic and reason give people the opportunity to experience iron sharpening iron. And this is what happens. You sharpen one another. Some people don't want to be sharpened. And when people don't want to be sharpened, you are challenging their area of fear. When people utilize fear against you, when they use fear topics like the propaganda that we've been seeing used in elections, people always want to put you on a side, right? I'm both the Democrats and the Republicans, but the independents. There is no such thing as a politician who does not utilize propaganda to get elected. Some of them base it off of the future of power that's going to come, and some of them base it off of the fear of what happens if they are not the one in office. It doesn't matter which way you go, all the sides use it for the same reason. One sometimes chooses, like there are times when Republicans use it to empower. There are times when Democrats use it to empower. There are times when Democrats use it to tear apart, and there are times when Republicans use it to tear apart. It doesn't matter what side you're looking from. Propaganda is propaganda. And the purpose of propaganda is to control your thoughts. And when they control your thoughts, what else do they control? They control you. If you understand that, then you can allow yourself to step back from the craziness that's going on and say, how do I want to proceed forward in this? You know, sadly, what ends up happening in situations like this is when no one is worth electing, people decide not to vote. And that's their choice. They get to do that. The other problem is that they lose hope and they lose faith in the country that they live in. And they become filled with anger and hatred, and they become hopeless. In this environment lacking hope, fear reigns supreme. So we are not instructing you on how to vote on anything. We're looking at the system as a whole, and we're looking at what both sides do. We will never instruct you on who to vote for, who not to vote for. We have no opinion on who you choose to run the country. That's your decision. What we are going to do is help you create the framework to make an educated decision about what you're walking into and what you're dealing with. And the last thing that we're going to mention about this fear tactic is this: propaganda. Especially in the United States, whereas you cast your votes, those votes go to a thing called the Electoral College. The Electoral College does not always side with the popular vote. So that begs some other questions. Number one, why do you still exist? And number two, if the people have spoken, and this is a democracy, then why is it that you have the freedom to decide on a candidate that the people did not elect? And people don't often ask those questions because at the end of the day, they're not going to give you a real answer. The answer they give you is not going to make sense. And that is how you know that you are locked into a system that is designed to control you, because they lie to you. No matter where you come from, there's not a single one that doesn't spend time lying to you. And so you now have to make a choice as to how you want to deal with that. Some people have made a choice to a place where they just made so much money that they're not impacted by the system. Is that going to be your choice? Others just quit and give up, and they just work and complain about it, but never do anything about it. And so others decide to make their life easy by joining the system. The only one that is a non-fear-based response is reaching an economic level where you are no longer affected by the system. And it's not fun, but sadly, that is the truth in that situation. That's the answer in here. Remember, kings and queens, they were not elected. They had their spot. But we wanted to do something different. And so that's where we are. If you want out of this system, then do enough good in the world and make enough money that you are no longer bound by the laws of the system. Welcome to the new version of the Matrix. See you next time.